And please, there it is, starting to receive content. It is up and running. Sherwin, do me a favor and keep Georgia occupied while I do a few things.
Yeah, so Georgia, you mentioned that you were in class. What are you? Is this a master program for you, or finishing your bachelor's?
I'm only 20.
What's
so I'm a junior in college.
Ah,
okay, cool. Well, hey,
Yeah.
I was a junior when I was 26 years old, so I get it.
I'm a junior, so I actually missed a whole week of school for Chili Bowl. So coming back and getting back in the groove of things and catching up on what I missed and everything, and also catching up on sleep.
I bet.
Did you get any? Did you try to like work the angle with the professors or anything? Like, hey,
I did. I was like, well, I'm working. I'm working on my career path. This is a really good resume booster. So
yeah.
He was kind of like, yeah, all right. Like,
and you're at Maryville still?
No, I moved to Indy actually, so I'm now going to IUPUI.
UIPUI. All right.
Yeah.
You and Carson Elledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Are you studying what? Are you studying journalism? Or are you studying production?
Communications. Yeah, and then I might end with a minor in journalism, but it kind of just depends on the classes that I take coming up in this next year and a half.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, do they give you any credit for covering all those races in the summer?
Yeah, no kidding, right?
I think I can consider it as an internship. I think so. I might be able to get some credit for it, but up until I graduate, I'm taking like 17 credit hours a semester because I've switched around so much. So I need all the credits I can get.
I hear you.
Yeah, no kidding. So, how long were you actually in Tulsa?
Saturday to Sunday.
Saturday
8 days
to Sunday. Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Where'd you stay at? Were you at a hotel or were you crashing?
We stay at the Hard Rock.
At the Hard Rock. Look at you.
Oh, yeah. Not old enough to gamble, but I'll sure stay there.
Tell you what.
That's funny. I missed last week's episode because I was in Las Vegas.
There we
away
go.
all my money. I'll talk about that a little bit at the very beginning of the episode, just to have some fun. So, George, it's been a year, so let me give you the rundown. We will likely be you won't be able to hear us for maybe a minute and a half while we're doing our intros and stuff. It's just the way all the wires are set up and all that stuff. It works, but it might cut out on you. Just FYI, people will still be able to hear you. So if you're going, hey guys, what's going on? Or if you start tapping on your keyboard or something, they'll be able to hear it. Doesn't bother me. I don't edit any of that out. You can say whatever you want, but they will be able to hear it. Once we do that, you will let's see. You'll hear us start talking and stuff. You'll know when to come in because it'll be, intro for you, and then saying, "Hey, what's up?" And then we'll just kind of talk about you a little bit. What went on for the last year or so, and then we do our report card segment. We just have 5 or 6 different topics that we'll go through. Obviously, Chili Bowl is right there at the top of the list. I think some fun stuff to talk about. And then we'll talk about some new follower stuff. We've got questions from our audience, and then
no way.
We typically run right at an hour. The show notes are pretty thin this time, which usually means we run like an hour and a half. Right? But we never know. We'll keep talking and whatever happens.
It's long form, so you don't have to chop yourself off. If you got a story that takes 5 minutes to tell. Take 5 minutes.
Oh no, I couldn't talk that long if I tried to think. I don't think.
All good. Well, are we ready to get started? If I can remember how to start.
I'm ready.
Funny what 2 weeks will do. Sherwin, you ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's do this. When I say we're recording now, that's when we're going to likely drop off. So here we go. Recording now. welcome y'all. Woo! That's right. This is Pre-Game Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 179. It's Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace in the PTM Podcast studio with Pre-Game Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
You are back.
I'm back.
Back from Sin City.
Woo! Yep. What happened in Vegas? Well, the money that happened in Vegas definitely stayed in Vegas.
That'll happen sometimes.
Yeah, you know how it is. We'll talk about it here in a moment, but before we do, y'all, the PTM Podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM. Join the What You Drink Club for as little as $1 a month. Get that free koozie and stickers. The best part is every cent this year, 2019, we're once again donating to sponsored drivers. Join the PTM Posse today. Be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. Here we go. Laura Henshaw, Aaron Bearden, Robert Keplinger, Coleman Clam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Keeper, Patrick Cleary, Jeff Brown, Brendan Crowd, Kathleen McDonald, Stacey Wright, Brendan Carl, Billy Workman, Rika Porter, John Bob, Les Miller, Tommy Wood, Julie Bosley, John Pearson, Eddie Greer III, Younker Motorsport, Jason Rudd, David Mullins, Joe Nolf, Patrick Johnson, Brett Morris, and welcome to the PTM Posse. I know you did this last week, but I'm going to, she hasn't had a proper rusty welcome yet. Gail Delaney, thank you so much for being a official sponsor.
I think you read that about twice as fast as I did.
So, y'all, Sherwin already said it last week. I had a opportunity, we'll say, to go to Vegas for very cheap. It was a $177 flight round trip from Atlanta. You don't find that, and free to stay. All I had to do was just bring some, spending money. Really, I guess I could have even eaten McDonald's every day and just had Vegas for $177. So
right.
I couldn't not do it, and I'm telling Sherwin, like, dude, I'm just not gonna do the show. Sherwin's like, that's okay. I'm gonna go visit Brandon from Lap Traffic. Y'all had the episode, dude. A few things. Number one, the mashup song at the beginning was killer. That was super cool.
Yeah,
I don't
that was
know if
all Brandon.
He did that.
Yeah,
I meant to ask him or give him props or whatever. That was super duper cool. I got goosebumps listening to it. If y'all haven't listened to PTM 178/Lap Traffic, I can't remember which number. 100 and
It's 178 for us.
104 or 5, maybe 6 for him.
Oh, yeah, 108. I want to say.
Okay, 108.
Yeah, exactly 70 different.
So yeah, that was super cool. And Sherwin did the Patreon read with all the official sponsors. I think it took about 2.5 minutes to get through them all, but definitely wasn't one breath. But hey. He said that I would give you like a D- on that. I've known you for a long time. Where I know that you can do it, you gave it an A in effort.
I appreciate that.
Just fine on that read. And
got a short bus A on that one?
Yeah, short bus A. I love it. Well, Sherwin, we have
That's probably not nice, by the way. I'll apologize for that.
Yeah, not anymore. So we have a very special guest. It has been... she's making her master's degree appearance here on the PTM Podcast. She is a junior in college trying to get her bachelor's degree, but she's already in her master's program at the PTM Podcast. We want to welcome her to the show. USAC on-track reporter talked with us just at a year ago, talking about January 18th, 2018 on PTM number 129, which means if it's 179 right now, we missed 2 episodes in a year. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, we're right on doing 50 in a year, which is pretty good.
Yeah. If you don't remember, she's got a long history in karting, racing in WKA, Route 66, Gold Cup, just to name a few. She went to do dirt micro sprints in the Midwest, working as pit reporter after that, social media rep for USAC Racing for a while there. Currently attends UIPUI, transfer from Maryville University, studying communications on Twitter at GHenneberry47. It's Georgia Henneberry. What's up, Georgia?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being on. And, I'm sure,
What's that thing we say about returning guests?
Oh, we didn't, they decided to come back. Well, it's been a year for her. We might have pissed her off real hard, and then she forgot, and then she decided to come back on.
Oh, yeah. Well,
no, I'm good.
Yeah. So, Georgia, we always start the podcast, as you know, with the same question. What are you drinking on tonight?
Am I drinking on?
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking water right now.
Drinking water. Staying
I drank
hydrated.
enough in Tulsa.
I bet.
You're still getting the dirt out of your mouth.
Right.
A little bit.
Chili bowl there.
Water and like Dayquil.
Water
That's
and
like what I'm
Dayquil.
going for.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you get to feeling better. We're drinking a few antiseptics ourselves. Sherwin, what's on the docket?
Well, we still got some of this. John Rich's Redneck Riviera whiskey. We got a little bit of that going on over here. I've got a 420 beer. What do you?
I've got
something
whatever
over
was
there.
in Rusty's fridge.
Looks like you got
There's
a Jekyll, you got
Yeah,
a
there's-
Sierra Nevada, you got a Miller Lite, you
This
got
jar
a
of
jar
something-
that we're probably not allowed to talk about.
Yeah. So we'll
What?
we'll let you know how it goes.
We got a guy. That's all we can say.
That's okay.
I heard of a guy. Well, George, it's great to have you back on. Tell us about your 2018, how things have been going and how it's treated you.
Really great. It's just been super busy. Finishing out the USAC season, and then we had our banquet. Then we went to New Zealand for a little while and came back and head straight into Tulsa. So and then I started school somewhere in there. So it's just been a really busy off season per se.
So I saw that you had been in Auckland. That's why I wasn't all that worried about you not having responded to my DM request for you to be on. I assumed that it was probably a little awkward to have phone service there. But what was New Zealand like? Did you get to do anything
Oh my
really
gosh.
cool?
It is the most gorgeous place you will ever visit. I mean, I haven't been everywhere, but up until now, that has been the prettiest place I've ever been to. We what did we do? We did so much. It felt like, well, we raced every other day. So we
cool.
raced a total of like 7 or 8 times. So that was, I mean, in a 2-week span, that's a pretty decent amount of racing. And then on top of that, we went to a couple different islands. We went zip lining. We went like downhill luging. That's a
Oh, yeah.
word,
Oh, cool.
luging. So we
Live
just
on the
did a
beach,
bunch
yeah.
of different stuff, and it was great.
Oh, yeah. I've done that in Germany before, or Austria.
Oh, we went fishing. We went fishing. I forgot about that.
Awesome.
Fishing, and then we had a boat day one day, so it was great.
It sounds pretty neat.
I think New Zealand has cornered the market globally in outdoor activity. If you want to go have some fun, if you want to jump off of something tall or swing across something crazy, come to New Zealand. We'll just let you do it.
Well,
Yeah, they have
and-
everything. And I learned while I was over there that it's a Sioux-free country. So, like, when we were doing the downhill luge, it was sketchy. Like, it could have gotten bad. And you don't even have to sign a waiver or anything. And I was
That's
asking
funny.
people from there, I was like, how in the world do you not have to sign a waiver to do this stuff? And they're like, oh, well, it's a Sioux-free country. No one sues over here, so there's no reason to sign a waiver. And I'm like, what?
Mate, no
That's
worries.
cool.
That's pretty wild, right?
I know.
I know that it's a pretty interesting place to go hunting because they, however back it goes, 200, 250, 300 years, whenever New Zealand was colonized, they brought over all these exotic animals, but none of them were predators. So
Nope,
they're like
no, none.
overrun with things to shoot at.
Nope. Yeah. And my personal favorite is that I'm terrified of snakes, and there are no snakes there whatsoever. And I was like, well, I can get on this program. I might just stay.
Yeah, it's wildly different from Australia in that respect because they have
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
9 of the 10 most deadly
Absolutely.
things on Earth.
Yeah, they were like, you just need to stay in New Zealand if you don't like snakes, because going over to Australia, apparently they're everywhere, and I do not mess around with that.
So, Sherwin, I think the quote of the episode is going to be, New Zealand is overrun with things to shoot at.
Yeah, I mean that's what Joe Rogan talks about on his podcast when New Zealand
That's
comes
funny.
up. It's like Hawaii; they got a deer in Hawaii that like there's no predator there. So
Oh, really?
like it's super easy to get a permit to go shoot this thing called an axis deer, and apparently it's super delicious.
Huh.
But it was brought over from
They're small,
somewhere.
aren't they?
Yeah, where it was brought over from somewhere where it had to run from tigers. So it's kind of hard to shoot. But there's a bunch of them.
So get after it, I guess.
Funny.
Yeah, Roger's saying, I'm not Indiana Jones, so snakes don't scare me. My wife has this absolute...
Yeah, they don't. He lives in upstate New York, by the way, where they don't have real snakes.
Yeah, ain't no snake down
Yeah.
I've been on the trail
Oh, no.
before, and my wife has picked up a snake to show me. Like, look! And I'm not scared of... I can't really think of things that I'm, like, scared of, but I say I've got a deep respect for some things, you know, like...
I remember last 2 years ago, we were up at Linda Speedway in Pennsylvania, and a snake fell from a tree and landed on the track during one of the races. And I was standing in the tower, and I was like, I will see you guys later. I am not, I don't even have to get paid for today. Just take me off. I'm leaving.
That's one of the biggest fears down here, is because the kind of snake that falls out of a tree into your canoe or your boat down here is a cottonmouth.
Yeah,
that ain't no fun.
They're as big around as they are long, too.
I used to ride horses. Like, we had a bunch of horses, and we boarded them and stuff. And to get them water, we'd take them down to the creek, and all those, like, water moccasins and cottonmouths would just hang out right at the creek, and you wouldn't see them until they would, like, scurry across the water, and A, it would scare the horses, and B, it would scare me. So
Heck yeah.
It was just a big old mess.
We had a creek in our backyard, Sherwin, and for the first, 12 years of my life, I just run down to the creek, play, hang out, woo. You're just in the creek. That's hey, and even our parents, like, why don't you go play down by the creek, like, get us out of the house.
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
absolutely.
Never even thought about a daggum snake. And I'm not sure I'd walk down to the creek today. and it's not that I'm scared, but that I know they're around, and you just step on one.
Well, you ain't scared of what you don't know, apparently, because we had one of those we had a creek in the backyard, like way back of the property that separated our property from the next guy's. And it was just running creek. It was a runoff from a big pond.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those big old, like, 6-foot diameter culverts.
Yeah.
And you could walk through it over the other side.
Yeah.
We did that all the time.
Of course you did.
It was
it's fun. That was
incredibly stupid.
You go down there during the rainstorms when the snakes came in.
Like, what?
Oh, goodness.
To quote, go ahead, Georgia. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, I didn't think that this is where it was going to turn.
See, this is how the PETN
We'd be talking about
works.
snakes.
We're talking about snakes. We were supposed to be talking about dirt racing, but to quote Bill Engvall,
That's
they
fine.
can move and they ain't got any legs. That's the devil.
That's the devil right there. Yes, sir. Well, let's get off the snake chart and let's get on to talking about some stuff that at least Georgia will find fun. I have fun talking about snakes. I'm not even sure if that's, we take her into the space where she'll never be back on here. But here we go. Let's tear it down.
I get scared.
Let's talk. We'll start with the report card. First period. Obviously, we want to talk Chili Bowl with you. Wild race, wild finish. Tell us about the race from your perspective. I want to hear kind of what you saw, where you were at, and what you're looking at, and your sort of breakdown of the whole deal.
Yeah. So personally, everyone that night. So Chili Bowl always does a great job of getting the show done and putting on a show and making sure everything gets in and stuff like that. But everyone was getting real agitated because they were an hour and a half, 2 hours behind before the feature was even supposed to roll out. So everyone was kind of like, let's get the show on the road. And then the day before that, it was kind of like a one-lane race. Just not the best race I've ever seen. So I was just kind of hoping that it was going to be better. And not even going to lie, Saturday kind of started out like that. It just kind of started one lane. I was like, oh, man, these guys are probably going to run 1, 2, 3. And then about 20 laps in, they really started getting after it, passing each other back and forth. I think there was a caution in there somewhere that kind of shook things up. And then you just saw Christopher, when he was behind Larson, just start to get after it, slower by slower. And when Larson made that mistake on the last lap and Christopher passed him, I think every person in the stand's jaw was just to the floor. Just, did that really happen? That's kind of like a surreal experience. So overall, it was just that finish was probably one of the most crazy things that I've ever seen.
Where were you watching the race from?
I was up in the stands, closer to turn 4.
Okay.
Turn 4. So right when that happened, coming off of turn 4 and Christopher passed him, we were kind of all just like right there.
So you were in the fan perspective then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. How many people were there, and what is it sold out?
I think the stands hold 20,000.
Wow. I didn't know that.
I
didn't know that. I can't remember.
Yeah. Because I thought they only held 10, and then someone corrected me the other day, and I wasn't sure. So I'll go with 20,000, but more or less.
That's awesome.
That is super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Sherwin, did you? Oh, I thought
Yeah,
you
and
were
it's
saying something.
sold out.
No, what I was going to say is we're trying to figure out how to work this one into the bucket list. I'll probably be poking and prodding Rusty to see if we can't figure it out next year, but if not next year, the year after, or some. It just seems like such a cool event that
you just got to do it, even if you come down for Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, yeah. And you said you were there. You were there 6 days, right?
8.
8 days. That's what it was.
Saturday
Not 6. It was the
Sunday.
other side. Yeah. Sherwin, I think I said this 1 year ago on this show with Georgia sitting there that I've got family in Tulsa. But here's the thing: when you're talking about out there in the Midwest area, when you say you've got family in a city, it might be like 4 hours from that city. I don't know where they live.
They're big states.
They drive into Tulsa to get their mail. I know that much. But
they're somewhere in Oklahoma.
Yeah. They're which means they don't live on a road that is accessible enough to even deliver mail to. Like they have to go to a place in Tulsa to go get their mail once every few weeks.
That is different.
Yeah, that's what it is. Georgia, last year I wrote in our show notes when we talked, because we were talking just before or just after, I can't remember now, about probably just after because you were at the Chili Bowl. But I had written down on there, because I went back and looked at the notes, and I had written down, was that the biggest hype yet for the Chili Bowl last year? And I remember 2 weeks ago, Sherwin, I said that to Nate Ryan too. And so it's interesting 2 years in a row having thought independently of those 2 times, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah.
It was an original thought both times. Was that the biggest hype yet? And we talked about this a little bit in the pre-show, and Georgia, I think you had a good perspective on it in terms of the NASCAR folks that are in it and stuff. So maybe you can take us off or take us down that path again.
Yeah, I think this year by far was the most attendance from other sports that we've ever had, especially in the hype department. Yes, NASCAR in a sense that, you still got Christopher Racing, Kyle Racing, Jeff Gordon was there, Tony Stewart obviously runs the tractor and things like that, and just a bunch of other NASCAR people. Vince Welch on the reporting side, his son is racing the event. So you just got a bunch of different people coming in there, but then you got to also look at it from the IndyCar side. Conor Daly ran it for, the first time. He's only been in a midget for like 5 minutes of his life, and he was running Chili Bowl. Landon Castle was there racing. So, you just kind of got to get like Chili Bowl this year, I think, has just had many more viewers because of the people who are in it and because of the people who support it.
Yeah, well, and I'll throw another 2 or 3 names out there. Casey Kane, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., and Dale Earnhardt's granddaughter, which I know she doesn't like to be called, so we'll call her Carson Elledge. And she held her own, too.
I forgot to mention Ricky, and he was racing for the team that I was working for. So,
oops, that's okay. It happens.
Hey, Ricky.
Funny. There was 360 cars there. I think they'll forgive you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So walk us through the days. 8 days there. What are you doing on day 1 versus day 6 versus day 8?
Well, they did it a little differently this year because they added that extra prelim night. So the first day was pretty long because they did 1 round of practice for everyone in the building, and then it was also a prelim night. So that was like at 8 a.m. to like 11 p.m. day. But after that, it kind of slows down a little bit because it's just a prelim night and racing starts at 4. So you get there around noon or 1, and then you're there until 11. And you go through the whole prelim night spiel and racing and stuff like that. But then it gets down to like Friday, Saturday, and more people start getting there. And then Saturday obviously is like an early day because racing started at like 9, I think. So if you had a guy that was in the O main or anything like that, you're there at 8 a.m. And then Saturday is obviously just spectacular. It's full of just activities to do, and everyone. Friday, Saturday is kind of when a lot of the people who don't need to be there all week come just to spectate and things like that. So I will say it's a long week, but then when you leave, you're kind of like, where did the last week go?
Right.
I believe that. It's so fast paced that the time probably just flies.
That's the way I feel when I go to Vegas.
Right.
Yeah.
whirlwind tour and everything.
Or especially when we go to those 2-day NASCAR weekends. It's
Oh
like
my gosh, when it's
crap.
Bristol or something, because those are the ones. This is, I don't know. I feel like an actual fan then, because you drive. I mean, what do we to get there? We go through Asheville, and so we have to stop for a burger or whatever. So I mean, it really is like 6.5 hours that we take to get to Bristol from here.
Yep.
And then we stay Friday night, and then Saturday night, and then turn around and come home about 4.5 hours to get back home, 4.5 to 5. And you're like, man, I've been on the better part of 12 hours of driving or travel for 36 hours of crazy
Eventing.
Yeah. So
And what, about 6 hours worth of racing?
yeah, if we're lucky, a lot of times,
Yeah.
hell, it's been what 2.5 hours of racing sometimes over the last few years.
Well, we're no good at the spring race. I don't know that we'll go back, and it's no fault of Bristol's. It's just the weather is horrific that time of year. It just rains so much.
it just rains, man.
It just rains.
It just rains.
Like we've gone to the spring Bristol race 2 years in a row and not seen a cup race.
yeah.
Oh no.
That can be disheartening for fans when you consider how much those tickets cost.
Let's go on to something a little more heartening, and we'll go to second period here. Mick Rose sends us a question at GoDucks42_Mick. He says, Sammy Swindell has made the Chili Bowl A-Main 24 times. Christopher Bell has made it 6 times. Will Christopher Bell get to 24? What do you think, Georgia?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. He's on such a hot streak right now. I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
Do you see other drivers that are possibly on that glide path?
Let me think about that. Well, I mean, you see Logan Seavey had a really great year with us, and this was kind of his breakout year. He won the midget championship, and then he was running really well in the feature event. It just kind of got shuffled back there, but I think he won 3 races on our season, and he's just kind of been right there and consistent all the time. And if he can do that this year, I think next year will be even better for him. And then you got to look at like someone who was on our team, Zeb Wise, who is 16 years old, and he's already, making the B main at Chili Bowl and running well in it. So I think it's just going to take a little time, but I think Christopher is at like the peak of his career right now, and it's going to stay that way for a while.
So what I'm curious about is we all know that Chip Ganassi is a little bit of a wild card. And so he kind of gives Larson a lot of license to operate outside of Cup. Will, if Christopher Bell makes it all the way through the Gibbs system to Cup, do we think Joe Gibbs is going to give him that same creative license to choose his hobbies, so to speak? I think that's what will prevent him from potentially making 24 A-mains.
I would hope so. I think if you can see the success that Kyle's got, and ultimately when Chip Ganassi keeps letting Kyle do it, he's just bringing more fans to his side.
That's a great point.
I don't really see the negative aspect of the whole thing other than the danger of it, but I would like to see that.
Well, so that's kind of where I was hoping to steer this is, and stop me, Rusty. I know we're going to talk about more about this and what the relationship between this open wheel dirt world is and what NASCAR stock car racing is, because to your point, I've never paid more attention to the Chili Bowl than this year, which was a little bit more than last year, certainly more than the year before, and now I'm already talking about I want to go. So, like, this can't be anything but good. Tony is like the purveyor of the track surface, and he's had a huge NASCAR presence. Jeff Gordon attended. Steve O'Donnell from NASCAR Brass attended. You had 6 either current or former top series NASCAR drivers compete in the race, or the races, as it were. It just feels like this is a relationship that can continue to grow.
And Sherwin, we talked. Go ahead, Georgia, please.
No, I was just agreeing.
In our pre-show, me and Sherwin were talking about the 10-year future of NASCAR and where things are going. I mean, this is just the crap that we talk about for whatever reason, one way
That's
or
why
another.
this podcast exists now.
Yeah. And among the money and the other stuff, it was outreach is a big thing there in terms of securing the future of NASCAR. And I think this outreach stuff, I feel like NASCAR needs to be doing this in order to bring in those fans and solidify the fan base that we have. So I think this is when I said last year, what started this whole question off, or started the previous question off, about, shoot, I lost my train of thought. What started the previous question about how, I'm lost, dude.
That's okay. Should we go to third period?
No.
Right,
Let's
we're
do
gonna stay
this.
on this.
You know what? I wanted to ask Georgia, what was the biggest surprise for you? Who was the biggest surprise there?
Ooh, that's really hard. I talked about Zeb. No, you know what? Cole Bodine, who raced for us, because
Cole
he
Bodine.
is a crew guy almost throughout the whole entire year, and then he gets just 2 or 3 races a year that he gets to race a CMR, a cross martial racing midget, and he just dominates. Like, he really does not race more than 5 or 6 times a year, and he's already making, he already is making the feature at the Chili Bowl. Like, how crazy is that?
So is this Bodine, is that name significant or just coincidental?
I don't really know. He raced micros for a little while and then got linked up with CMR, and he crews on the cars. He works in the shop every single day. And then Tim gives him a couple chances a year to race a midget. He podiumed at a USAC midget race this year. And then to make the feature at the Chili Bowl, I mean, that just really surprised me. Not to say anything against Cole, but he drove his tail off.
I guess I was just curious if he was one of the Bodine brothers' kids.
I don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Not sure.
That's fine.
So at the same time, I'm doing my Google Foo here.
Google Foo.
Yeah. He's apparently working on getting into Indy.
Oh, cool.
Indy.
Let's see.
Indy car.
Let's see. At the upcoming presented by NOS Energy, whatever it is, Driven to Save Lives BC 39 for Clausen Marshall Racing. Did that back in September. It looks like paved sprint car stuff. Or micro sprint stuff.
Oh, I haven't.
So,
yeah, he does micro sprint stuff.
Okay. Cool. Very neat.
But yes, he's awesome, and he's super nice, and he's super grateful for everything that he gets. And he podiumed on his prelim night at Chili Bowl. I think got 3rd, and then made the feature and coming from the Bees. So he's just a man on a mission.
And it looks like not related to Jeff and Todd at all. So interesting that a name such as that. I bet they have some. They may not know that they're related,
Right? Somehow,
but you're not a Bodine without something up there in the great area.
Yeah. Well, they're all from upstate New York, and open wheel sprints is big up there.
Yeah. I want to. So we'll go on to third period here. I want to Georgia. I want to bring back a couple questions from PETM 129 because I thought they were very interesting from last time. And it's not that I remember the questions or the answers, so there's no pressure there. But the last time we talked about a couple things, what could happen in the future with blah, blah, blah. I'd love to turn those questions around this time and talk about over the last year since we last talked, what were things that you think that you've seen that have happened that sort of answer the. You'll see what I mean in a second. We'll give a quick shout out Andrew Cantian at KHANTZIAN on January 18th, 2018. He asked, "What do you think NASCAR and the Chili Bowl can learn from each other?" And I would say, over the last year, do you think there are things that NASCAR and Chili Bowl have learned from each other up to this point?
I kind of think that they've built a relationship together, if that kind of answers that question a little bit. I think that, since you have so many drivers right now supporting dirt racing that also race in the NASCAR series, you're just kind of they're just transferring over fans to each other. And I mean, fans are what make the sport possible. So I think that now, since you have drivers owning whole dirt racing teams, if they're NASCAR fans are fans of that driver, they're going to be fans of the driver's teams, which leads them to everything else in the sport. And then obviously, people who race at the lower ranks, or maybe, dirt racing, their goal is to probably get to NASCAR and get to IndyCar or something like that. So it's just kind of like they're kind of going parallel at each other with like just transferring going on.
Gotcha. Sherwin, what do you think?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I think the two communities are more connected than they've ever been.
I would agree.
At least in the public space. They may have been more connected behind the scenes than we ever knew. I mean, we could rattle off all kinds of drivers that came from that world, but I don't think it's ever been any bigger that NASCAR fans, stock car fans, are aware that sprint car racing not only is a really cool thing to watch, but that's where our drivers are coming from.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And I think, two names that we've mentioned already. I mean, Christopher Bell doing it again. The more times that you're doing something, heck, it goes for everything, or even this podcast. Nobody listened to our first 2 episodes, but, we just keep going, keep making the thing, and eventually like 10 people listen to it now. So, but Christopher Bell, if he keeps doing it, and winning, that's how he's going to be started. That's how he's going to be introduced, for example. Multi-time Chili Bowl winner, for example, or whatever else. So
3-time consecutive Chili Bowl champion.
Right.
That means something in the dirt open wheel community,
and it means something for racers when or racing fans when they hear that over and over. Oh, Chili Bowl again, huh? And people actually care about the Chili Bowl enough for us to mention it as an intro type of thing. So I think they've learned quite a bit there. And the other name I was going to say was, maybe I'm being a homer here, but Kasey Kahne, with his unexpected retirement, or unexpected sudden part of the retirement part of this whole thing, I think him possibly, if you're still following along with him, he's doing dirt. And if he's doing dirt, he's going Chili Bowl and stuff. So, being able to gain those.
He's going to race 55 times in the World of Outlaws next year.
Yeah, more races than NASCAR has. But and Georgia said it that on Tony Stewart was there, doing his thing, and I think the big name that you mentioned, Jeff Gordon, was there this time. Which maybe he's not all the time. I mean, what gets Jeff Gordon out to Tulsa, Oklahoma? Chili Bowl. Chili Bowl's getting bigger. That's what we're going to do.
And that's the world he came from. Not necessarily the midgets themselves, but the open wheel dirt sprint world is where Jeff, Tony, Ryan Newman, Kasey Kahne, Chase Briscoe, Alex Bowman, Christopher Bell, those guys, Kyle Larson, obviously, those guys all came from that world.
Yeah. The second question from Mick Rose a year ago. Thanks again, Mick. GoDucks42 _ Mick. I think we've kind of answered this, but I'll at least put it on the forefront and see if we have any other thoughts on it. NASCAR, he said last year, NASCAR and open wheel dirt racing inspires a lot of passion from their fans. And how can we get these two groups to support each other instead of treating each other as competitors? So I'm going to turn that question around and say, over the last year, how have the two groups supported each other instead of treating each other as competitors? I think we just sort of said that with exactly what we were saying.
Very poetic.
Yeah, right? So I think that's really cool, again, to look at the last year's stuff. Any thoughts, Georgia, on last year versus this year? What are some of the big differences you're seeing maybe?
I think I really think that we talked about it.
Yeah.
I just think that you can see it grow and how people keep, dirt fans might go to more NASCAR races, or NASCAR fans might go to more dirt races, and you can even see it in the Chili Bowl lineup. You can see it in who's attending the Chili Bowl. And so I think in the past year it's just grown tremendous.
So, Georgia, what's coming up next for you? Chili Bowl is out of the way. What's the next big thing?
We head to Ocala, Florida,
little warmer?
Well, this year is a little different. We have 2 weekends in Ocala, so the midgets will be racing the 7th and 8th. No, the 8th and 9th, and they practice on the 7th, and then the sprint cars will be that following weekend for a 3-day event. So they'll practice that Wednesday, and then race Thursday, race Friday, race Saturday. And then we have a little bit of a break, I think, up until the Shamrock Classic, which is March 9th, maybe?
March 9th. Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll tentatively put it on the calendar just in case it's not March 9th.
I might be wrong.
Yeah.
I think it is, though.
That sounds good. You know, one other question that we had from last time, and I know I'm repeating last year's, but I think it's really cool to see the difference here since it's been a year. Frank Villat asked us, if you had to pick a driver who's never raced in the Chili Bowl, but you'd like to see him try it, who would it be? And I'm going to turn that question around and say, who were some of the first-time Chili Bowl drivers that you saw that were eye-opening for you?
Oh, goodness gracious, there's so many. I feel like, I don't know. I mentioned the name before, but Connor Daly ran the Chili Bowl, and we're relatively decent friends, and that was kind of funny to see him. I mean, it was just fun to see him try it and his whole experience, because we both attended the Racers for Autism event that Sunday, which happens every year. And Sunday, or it used to be on Monday, I think, but now it's on Sunday because they added that day. And he got on the mic and was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try to learn, and I'm having a blast doing it. So, thanks for having me, Dirt World, and things like that. And so that was kind of fun for me.
That's awesome. Let's go to fourth period. We'll talk a little bit of pavement. I mean, we got to get a little bit in there, Sherwin. as it turns out, we've been dirt all day. Rolex 24 this weekend. Georgia, do you watch your Rolex 24 at all, or what's
Usually
your
I'll have it on a little bit, but I don't stay up for the whole thing. I just follow along, kind of. If I wake up or anything, I'll follow along on Twitter or anything like that. But I think it's a neat event.
Sherwin, how about you? What's your Rolex 24 plans?
My Rolex 24 plans, because I've got a dinner deal on Saturday, is I'm going to watch the first 3 hours on NBC.
NBC?
And then because of who I've got dinner plans with, I hope to wake up not too mostly cloudy on Sunday morning and start watching again till the end. No promises there, but it definitely interests me now that it more than it ever has. Just because, A, we have access to it probably better than we ever had, except for maybe Speed. I don't want to put them down because they had great coverage of this type of event. But, we've had Jordan Taylor, a.k.a. Rodney Sandstorm, on the podcast, so I'm looking forward to rooting for him.
Which team is he on?
He is on a Penske team, an Acura. And then A.J. Allmendinger is running for Shank.
Yep.
So I'm excited to see what he can do with
Justin
his
Marks
teammates.
is on that team.
Yeah. Okay. So even more fun. I don't know. It's just it's intrigued me more than it ever has. Just like the dirt race, it's the same exact conversation to me. It's once you cross that barrier of getting into liking the Amber-Turners, that a super endurance race with Amber-Turners seems like a really neat thing. Like this whole idea of you swap drivers. You got all these world class drivers.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah. And I wasn't even reading from your notes, but I see them. They're there now. But, it's a neat test of fortitude for a race team, race drivers, building a car that can last. It's so neat. Remember, we had a last lap pass just a couple of years ago.
That's insane. 24 hours.
Yeah, it's 24 hours
racing.
plus one lap, and we had a last lap pass.
That's nuts. So, I'll just like Georgia said, put it on in the background, see what's going on, poke my head over the couch every once in a while, see what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't know how you're. I need to figure out how you're supposed to watch that race. I think the way you're supposed to watch that race is go to Daytona, and sit in the infield or wherever. And watch that race. I think that's the way to do it. Wake up, anytime you just sort of stir awake, just get up, walk around a little bit, look around. go back to sleep, wake back up again, crack yourself a beer, man.
Yeah, exactly.
What time's that race start again?
2:00.
2:00. Okay, so it's not
Is it 2 to 2?
Yeah. So it's, I mean, that's totally in anyone's wheelhouse to, get up, hair the dog, shake the thing off, and have some breakfast. Now, chill out. By the time you're ready to really roll, it's time to finish this race up. So
Yeah,
that sounds good. Coverage is amazing. Again, we've been.
this is where they're going to kill it.
We've been talking about
Like good kind of kill it.
Yeah, we've been talking about the crossover stuff all episodes so far. And this one, y'all listen to these names. Dale Jr., Steve Letarte, Chris Devoto, Rick Allen, Dave Burns, Parker Kligerman, Marty Snyder, Kelly Davis, Rutledge Wood. Like,
Add another one in there because
That's cool.
AJ is actually going to be doing coverage when he's not in the race car.
that's insane. We talked about NBC before doubling down. They're not doubling down here. They're like triple, quadruple down.
They're saying this is
Yeah, they're
our
getting
bag.
ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, their NBC Sports Network is basically for the next year going to be covering hockey and motorsports.
Yep. There it is.
Well, I like hockey, so that's good.
So you're not even going to turn the channel?
No, I'll just have it on all the time.
Yeah. So I mean that is such a cool investment from NBC to put all those folks in that and saying, hey, these guys know racing. I'm actually really curious to see how that call will be different or the same or whatever it is. Watching that versus a NASCAR race, I think they should do this more often. Send these guys to a motocross or something and see what they do.
Well,
Dale Jr. yelling side job.
Yeah. Well, Ricky Carmichael's been awesome for NBC Sports Network on the Supercross side. And one of the things that's going on right now, you may not know about this yet, Rusty, but Nate Ryan posted his part 1 of a podcast that's all about when Dale Sr. and Dale Jr. ran in the sports car series at Rolex in a Corvette. And, there's some of that nostalgia involved because it was one of the last races that Dale ever ran. But it was all Dale's idea. He's like, we need to run this race. We need to support Corvette and GM. Like, this is Chevrolet company, man. We're going to do this all the way. And I listened to it today, and it was all about the Corvette branding guy and then Dale Jr. And then just they kind of juxtaposed several different snippets of a conversation that Nate had with them about it. And there's another part to be released, I assume would probably come tomorrow or Friday, that's totally worth your time.
Ahead of the deal.
It's neat. They raced a yellow Corvette with Dale's signature number 3 on it.
Yeah. Georgia, besides
That's cool.
catching up on the PTM podcast each and every week, what are some of the other podcasts out there that you're listening to on a regular basis?
I really like Dylan Welch's Rip the Fence. He does a really good job with that. So if you're into the dirt world, kind of everything, because Dylan does a little bit of everything now, but Dylan Welch's Rip the Fence podcast is really good. I'm actually a really big fan of stand-up comedy, and I listen to it a lot.
Awesome.
So if you like the comedian Chris D'Elia, he has a super funny podcast called Congratulations, and I'm putting it out there right now. It's pretty vulgar, but it is so funny. It is awesome. So if you get a chance to check that out, do that. And then Dylan Welch, Rip the Fence.
Well, if you like Chris D'Elia, I would suggest taking a peek at Andrew Santino.
I've heard the name.
He's pretty funny. We are very much, well, I say we, I probably am, whatever the word is. I'm putting this on Rusty when he may not listen to the same things I do, but, Joe Rogan, Bert Kreischer.
Yeah, he's funny.
We're actually going as a group to see Bert Kreischer.
Is he the machine?
Yes,
he's the machine.
That is the machine. So he's in
he's
Atlanta.
Really funny. I've seen his stuff.
Yeah, he's in Atlanta the week after my birthday, so we're gonna go see him. Who else have we seen recently? We went and saw Bill Burr when he filmed his special in Atlanta.
Yeah,
that was
no way.
super.
I've probably
cool.
seen it then if it's a Netflix special.
It's the black and white one.
Yep.
Yes.
We were there for that.
Yeah. That was super
We've
cool.
seen Joe Rogan live here. I've been
I want to see Joe Coy. I think that's his name.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
Yes.
He's really funny too, and he's coming to St. Louis, and I need to go to it.
I'm enamored with stand-up comedy these days, and that's
I love it.
it makes up a good 40% of the podcasts that I listen to.
We got to go to New York and go to the Cellar.
And then we had to get on a plane and go to the
go to
comedy
LA, go to the store.
when like Joe and Ron White and
Well, you never
and
know.
whoever else is going to be there.
Well, that's the thing with them at those places. They never say they're coming. They're never on the bill. They just walk in and do 10 minutes because they want to do 10 minutes.
Right.
So that's that's the cool part about these places. And I've said it before. I went to the Cellar that time, and it was awesome. It was so
saw
cool
Ari,
to
right?
see. Yeah, Ari was there. There was a few other people were there, and it was just really what's his name? Dave Attell.
Tells
Came on.
He's the master.
Yeah,
He's the New York master. Everybody gives him praise.
Yeah. So it
Chris
was.
D'Elia was supposed to be in St. Louis the day before Chili Bowl started,
Mhm.
and then it got snowed out. So now he's going to be in St. Louis February 24th, and I'm like really trying to go to that one.
Going back, so you're aren't you from St. Louis, or was that just
Yep.
where you were? Yeah, I thought so, if I remember
Yeah, I'm
right.
from
So
there.
you've got a free place to stay and everything, probably, huh?
Yeah,
Perfect.
exactly.
Mom
Nothing
and
wrong
Dad.
with that. Sherman, fifth period here. Todd Gilliland, full-time racing in the number 4 KBM ride next year. How cool is that?
I think that's what people expected to happen, but it's kind of weird that it took this long. I think I didn't read deep into this, but maybe his age is going to prevent him from running Daytona, or maybe a few races to start the year, but then he's going to turn 18 and it's not a problem anymore. I'm not sure if Georgia even knows that either. I didn't really look into it. I apologize, PETM Posse. Did not do good research on
He
this.
was born in 2000, so he should be
He's 18.
good
isn't
to
he?
go.
Should be good to go then. All
May
right,
15th, 2000. So, yeah.
So full season in a truck that we know can win, and he has shown the capability to wheel it. I think everybody expects this
Yeah.
kid to do good things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you know
I,
his... go ahead, Jordan.
I just think that he's an overall, like, he's what they look for. He can drive. He's got a good media appearance. I think he'll go pretty far.
So here's something I didn't know. Obviously, David Gilliland was in the Cup Series, but his grandfather, Butch Gilliland, won the 1997 Winston West Series championship, which to me it's like, all right, his grandfather won in 1997. I was like almost an adult in 1997, and this
on
dude's,
paper.
and this dude's grandfather won in 1990. Like I'm getting there, man. That was actually depressing to read now that I think about it. And I don't know why I did it. I feel worse now than I did a moment ago.
It's actually Cup drivers the only thing that are keeping me from feeling old, because like there's still a lot of them that are like right around my age.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of hate out there for those older guys or whatnot. But yeah, like I'm not saying I'm a Tom Brady fan. I'm just glad that he's 41
He's
years
older
old
than you.
and going to the Super Bowl.
Right.
And yay him for yay that age. Yeah, I don't know. I think there were a lot of. You remember Julio Franco for the Braves? Who,
Right. His birth certificate said he was 42, but he was actually 58
Yeah.
and still playing first base for the
gosh.
Braves.
Braves, yeah. I think he was north of 50 if I remember right, and playing for the Braves. So yeah, good times. No, that's great for Todd. And recess I put in here. I didn't really have a 6 period, but we'll throw a recess. Ganassi announcing that McMurray will run the Clash.
Yeah, so they have a partnership with I can't remember who. They're actually running out of the Spire Motorsports stable. That car will become the 77 when it hits the track at Atlanta.
Okay.
Run by Quinn Huff. There was some noise about that because he's a guy that's bringing a little bit of money, but he's going to a back marker ride. So it's like, how excited are we supposed to get about this? I saw a tweet from Tommy Joe Martin saying, I don't know why people keep getting mad at these people that are actually able to bring money. Like, it's not their fault they're able to bring the money. Like, it takes money to race. You know, it's a dog-eat-dog world. There's no reason to have hatred for somebody that can bring it because, I mean, after all, it's the 77 with Spire Motorsports, who nobody knows who they are, really. I mean, maybe this will actually give them the exposure they need to attract a sponsor that allow them to progress up the food chain.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there's always that piece. You could go positive if you want.
Have we gotten okay? We do have the class of 2019 for the Hall of Fame, and maybe this has been out for a while, but let's just go for it here.
Inductions are coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Davey Allison, obviously. I mean,
God bless him.
yeah, yeah. And while your hat is off, and mine too, Alan Kulwicki.
Oh yeah.
So those two right there. Roger Penske.
What a tremendous class. Two guys that were fighting for the championship in the same race in 92.
Yeah, and what, Kulwicki died in 93? When did Davey Allison die?
93.
So they were both.
Or 93 or 94.
Yeah.
They were real close to each other.
That's nuts. Roger Penske, Jack Roush, and Mr. Jeff Gordon.
All right.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool right there.
Fairly stout class.
Yeah, yeah. Have we had a class recently that, I don't know, gives you as much goosebumps as that right there? I mean, holy crap.
I don't know. I think the gravity of Davey and Allen probably tips this one over the edge since they've both been gone for so long, 25 years.
Plus, yeah. Georgia, what's your thoughts?
I think everyone that you have just mentioned is very deserving of going in there. They've all accomplished so much. So it's just, I mean, it's just a matter of like there's so many names that, you know, could go into it. And I think that those few that have been selected are very deserving.
You know, Davey Allison apparently was a 2018 nominee. I guess he didn't get in then, but I mean, that was just a matter of time at that point, right?
I would imagine just because there's so much love for him and he won so much in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
He won 19 races in like 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, geez.
That's crazy.
What are you going to say? So, with that, let's do a couple of new follower shout-outs. Sherwin, do you have the list with you?
Yeah.
All right.
It was in my notes.
Yep. I'll do the first one. Jody B at LTTL Teapot.
Little teapot there.
I like it. NASCAR Foundation at track leader for Dover, which is awesome. And Jody's a Truex fan. So,
yeah, and I think, I don't know if it's Tanya or Tanya. I'm going to assume it's Tanya at JetWorks Tanya. Also a Truex fan, Devils fan. I'm assuming JetWorks might have something to do with the New York Jets. I think she's a New Jersey girl. These two kind of came on board at the same time, so I get a sense they're in cahoots together.
I'm looking at, here I am just looking at JetWorks now. JetWorksPerformance.com. Not sure what it is, but cool. Hopefully, maybe that's what it is. So thank you all for following along in the PTM podcast. Georgia, we hope you've had a little bit of fun and all enjoyed what we're talking about and doing here. Here's the deal. Why don't you tell everybody what's coming up next for you? I know we talked a little bit about that, but not only that, but where they can find you and what's going on.
Yeah, so I post a lot of stuff on my Twitter and my Instagram and stuff. So it's ghenneberry47 on Twitter, and then Georgia_Adeline on Instagram. And then you can find us. I think the next place you'll be able to find me is Ocala, Florida, the weekend of the 7th, 8th, and 9th. So look for that. And then obviously you'll be able to see me on USAC social media as well at USAC Nation across all modes of social media. So check that out, and looking forward to getting going with this season.
And we'll be looking forward to having you on for the PhD episode We do. We've said it all our guests. We do a bachelor's, master's, and PhD. I think you've well earned your master's, as if we're even accredited to give those things out. But hopefully you have that one, and we will talk more snakes.
Probably be snakes again.
Yeah, who knows? So with that, Sherwin, let's close this thing out. Let the folks know what's going on. Here's the deal. Y'all can find us at PTM Podcast on the Twitter. As always, PTMPodcast.com, iTunes, Google Play, all the normal places where you can find things and stuff and everything. We want to thank Georgia Henneberry for being on once again. Sherwin.
Yeah, and you can also find us on Instagram, same handle, PTM Podcast. You can find me at Pregame Engineer. You can find me at, that's on Twitter. On Instagram, it's Andrew L. Sherwin. Next week, we've got a very interesting guest. We're going to go sideways again. We're going to leave the dirt racing world, and we're going to talk some soccer with Brittany Arnold from NBC Atlanta.
All right. Here's something interesting for you. Did you know that one of the bad guys in Hang 'em High, the movie, is the most interesting man in the world? That became his job later on in life. How crazy is that?
Wow. Now I want to watch the movie again.
I love that. I just watched that movie, me and the wife, a couple nights ago. Again, I've seen it a million times. She has too.
You need to watch High Plains Drifter next.
Yes. All right, y'all. Thank you. All right. Georgie, you still there?
I am.
Awesome. That is the end of the recorded session. We are still live on YouTube. We want to thank all of our YouTube listeners for hanging out with us once again and all that stuff. That was fun.
Yeah, that was. Thank you so much for having me once again.
Awesome. I'm going to go ahead, Sherwin, and close down the YouTube portion of this.
All right.
Thank you, everybody on the tuber, and we'll catch y'all next week, like we said. And stopping streaming now. See y'all.